Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the CleoCast. My name is Matt.
And my name is RC.
Anyway, how are you?
I'm doing okay.
Doing okay?
Yeah.
Nice. I just came back from Seattle last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It was awesome. It was a very impressive city.
Yeah.
I got to use their transit system. Talked to a few people there. One weird thing about it, though, is they don't have like turnstiles. There's just like a yellow line and like a place you can tap like the card, the Metro card that was called the Orca card, but there's no like thing to
You
like
can just walk through.
yeah,
if
you
want.
can just walk past it, and
It's probably a progressive policy of some sort.
yeah, I don't exactly know.
I'm sure it's got a really fancy name, and somebody spent $500,000 studying it. Like,
yeah,
the turnstiles don't actually reduce fare evasion at all,
yeah.
or something like
So you can just walk past it, and you have fare ambassadors who have no legal power, who I saw just get told to fuck off when they were trying to be like, "Can we please scan your card to see the last time you scanned that the like thing?" And they're just like, "Fuck off," and just like, "Yeah, okay."
That is the one thing where it's just like, if your public transit system has fares, you probably shouldn't like fare evade. Like that's the one thing where it's just like, yeah, we should probably enforce fares because that goes into the system and helps pay for it, and like it's usually like $1 or $2 or something. So it's kind of like a reason, the most reasonable fee you could possibly pay.
I think it was $2.75.
Yeah, and it's just like,
But another thing, I kept on seeing that there was like businesses where you could just get. It's called the Orca card, and you can just get your Orca card for all your employees.
yeah. I
So-
think the CTA does that too.
So it's just like, if you want your people working at your job to get to their job, you could just have like pay for their employee like Orca card, and then they can like scan it, and they don't have to like worry about filling their card up.
That's just the thing, is that if you use the public transit system and you want it to be better, you should probably be paying fares, because they have very limited resources usually outside of what the state or the government appropriates them. So if you want them to have better expansions, you need to be putting money into the system.
Yeah, it is a very nice system though. I didn't sit in a car once while there. I took many modes, from buses to trains to streetcars to ferries, to get all over the place. And
Ferries.
ferries. It's a very nice city.
I see that and I've heard, because we talk outside of the
Yes.
podcast, that it's kind of like when I went to Chicago and now I just want to move there.
Yes.
It's like you go to one actual city outside of Kansas City and all of a sudden you want to move there.
Yeah, you're just like, wait, they have train.
We don't have to build the entire public transit system from scratch and fight tooth and nail to do it. They just already have one built.
And the funny thing is their transit system, like all the stuff on rails, is relatively new within the past like 20 years. So it's just like, it's not like they're, had something from like 1904 where you could just like have some goon show up with a gun and say, "Get out of here, we're building a subway here." Like, it was built in like the modern era of like having to deal with a bunch of people protesting and like eminent domain and shit like that.
It's like there was a couple of eras, right? Like there's the earlier, public transit or whatever, in like the 20s and stuff, when it was mostly private companies doing it. There was like the 60s with like the Great Society subways and whatnot. And then there was like the 90s where there's a big wave of like Minneapolis, St. Louis, and I think Seattle or whatever, like mid to late 90s, all just started building transit systems at the same time. Kansas City had a couple of proposals at that same time in that same era, but we voted them all down. So it's just like kind of sad to me always to see these places where it's like, we could have had that. We had like a huge, streetcar mass transit plan that was proposed to be, it was supposed to be open 4 years ago, like completed. The original plan was going to be completed for a comprehensive transit plan. We had another one in 2008 that was also voted down.
Yeah.
And then the current one in 2016, which is in like the third era. I think it's called like the Obama era streetcars, like Cincinnati, Kansas City, I think the DC streetcar or something like that.
Even though DC already had a subway system.
Yeah, but they had like a little useless streetcar going 2 blocks.
But like, and there's like buildings, like mixed use skyscrapers going up all over the place there. And I was just like, man, did someone like kick Seattle in the ass and be like, you need to do shit? Because it seems like there's a ton of stuff happening there. But it was a cute city. I really enjoyed. They had great coffee.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. how we let them be known as like the coffee capital of the U.S. because you can't grow coffee there at all. It's
Well,
like a terrible climate for it.
From what I know is like it's like the big dark forms, or at least that's what people describe it as. And then there's like like Seattle freeze where people just kind of like stop talking to each other, and there's like no sun and it rains constantly for like 8 months out of the year. So like their only motivation is just kind of like these dark coffee shops with coffee.
Well, they're in like a temperate rainforest, right?
Yeah.
Like a I don't want to say Appalachian, but like a forest, dark forest, rainforest style.
Yeah.
Like not like a jungle, like a South America rainforest, but like
a
like a temperate one. Yeah.
And the weather was very nice while I was there, even though, so I was going to visit my friend, and he was up in my business about rain jackets. Didn't rain once. It was actually super sunny and like 60 degrees the entire
I
time.
know I loaned you mine. Did you remember to bring it back?
Yeah, I have it.
I just remembered that.
Yeah. And it was just like, man, this place is awesome. I saw the park where Chaz happened. If you remember Chaz.
I do remember that.
Turns out Chaz wasn't as bad as people made it out to be on the news.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nothing ever is.
No.
I don't know. I feel like we're in the era of stagnation where you just can't, at least in Kansas City, where it's just like, man, you just can't. And I'm not talking about the stadium because I don't give a shit about that, but it's just like you can't do anything anymore because you get people talking about like.
I feel like you're trying to transition into our main topic when I just want to continue talking about my vacation.
No, not really. I'm just kind of lamenting Kansas City compared to any other city on the U.S. pretty much.
Well,
any other major city at least. Like even St. Louis has something, even though I think their system's kind of a wreck.
Yeah, I mean, they could definitely go faster with the St. Louis Metro, but
faster, and I think they just like seem to be incapable of actually expanding it beyond the original. Because what they have right now was what was originally built, right?
Mm-hmm.
In like the 2005 whatever. I don't think they've been able to expand it in like 30 years.
Yeah.
Whereas so we've been able to expand our system already within like 3 years, you know?
Yeah.
We had two different expansions.
That one expansion is going all the way down to UMKC, which is a little less than 6 miles long, and it's taking us 5 years to build. One thing that I did learn about Seattle, which is kind of a dunk on us, is they built 26 miles of light rail going from their airport to like North Seattle in like 6 years.
That's the most annoying thing, man. Is like $700 million for like, and you drive past like the highway interchanges, the big, cloverleaf ones, and it's just like, you just literally build this stuff that we already know how to build, and then put rails on it, and then you have like a nice dedicated
elevated rail.
Yeah.
Well, for those who have been following the podcast,
I'm not going to interrupt you a third time.
We're making 2 episodes about the Royal Stadium, and we have an announcement to make. If you didn't see, the tax vote for the stadiums and the Chiefs' improvements and stuff failed by close to 20 points.
Yeah, it was pretty much a blowout by April ballot standards. I think it was like 17,000 votes.
So, for those who are dooming on Twitter, I just want to address...
Who I'm sure listen to the show.
Who I'm sure you listen to the show, obviously. No, they aren't moving. They aren't immediately going to run to Nashville.
I don't even know where Nashville came from. Everybody was glommed on it.
It's a scare tactic. Literally, they can get funding from somewhere else, and this was simply you have to come up with a national plan. And, the Chiefs coming out and be like, this is the best plan we're able to offer to the city. It's like, or the county. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. You guys have probably one of the best, planning organizations in the NFL. Hell, you're able to build Super Bowl caliber teams. You can't think of a plan to take it to the voters.
It's literally just don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Don't tell me this is the best possible plan you can come up with when it looks like, an urban planning student that forgot that the assignment was due the next day and had to rush something. Yeah, let's the parking lot orientation could probably be more efficient. It's like, why do you need money? Just do that. It's paint. Just reorient the parking lots now. It's stupid.
And people are just like, well, they're obviously going to attempt to use Kansas as leverage because they're seeing you guys on Twitter being stupid and thinking, well, they're just going to run to the legends. It's just like, no. John Sherman wants a downtown ballpark, and the downtown ballpark's probably the best thing that's going to happen. You just need to make a better plan. The Chiefs aren't going to leave their like absolutely iconic, legendary stadium that was built like twice the size of regular stadiums at the time it was built, that still is viable and usable today, that Clark Hunt has a goddamn house in.
Yeah, because if they build a new stadium, they literally can't build it shaped the same way it is. That makes it so loud, because it was built in the 60s and it is no longer ADA compliant, but it got grandfathered in. So if they rebuild a new stadium, it immediately loses the noise advantage, because basically the bowl is at the upper bowl is at such a steep angle, which allows for you to basically feel like you're sitting on top of it, and it allows for like the noise to bounce around and stuff. But they legally cannot build it like that anymore. It's like not ADA compliant or anything like that. So it's just like, if they're going to give up that stadium, they're basically going to give up everything that gives them the strong of a home field advantage as they have now. So I don't think that he's going to do on a whim, especially because it's the stadium his dad built. And also, he doesn't live in Kansas City. That's his house in Kansas City. Mm-hmm. There's a 3-story house built into it. He lives in Texas.
He lives in Dallas, and the Dallas mayor tweeting about that is stupid, and that was just that was the PR stunt.
It's pretty funny. Yeah. Look, they wouldn't do the scare tactics if they didn't work. That's the problem, is people just eat into a hook, line, and sinker, and it's like, guys, this guy's just telling you what he thinks is going to make you do what he wants. Like, they only say these things. They only try to freak you out because it works. Like, they dangle, the Northland. What happened to the Northland? I thought they were moving to the Northland, and now all of a sudden it's Kansas? Oh, okay, because it's almost like they just swap around ideas just to get whatever works.
So anyway, the tax failed.
Yeah, it did fail.
And, the current tax is only going for 7 more years, so they have such a short amount of time of 7 years to figure out a natural plan to extend their tax again.
It's like, and we've said this before, we'll say it again because maybe you didn't listen to the other episodes. We're in favor of the downtown ballpark. We just want it to be like in the East Village, or I've been seeing like kind of closer to 18th and Vine proposal in the old KCATA site. And I think that one possibly could work, but like just literally just not the crossroads. Just don't destroy a ton of businesses when you don't need to,
Yeah. Anyway, so wouldn't it be awesome though when they do build a downtown ballpark somewhere that you could potentially, like the sound transit system I was riding on, stop at a station called Stadiums and get off and go to a game, and when I was trying to go back to the airport, catch a bunch of Red Sox and Mariners fans riding on it, packing the place to the gills. That would be pretty cool. That would be awesome. Only if Kansas City was able to achieve, building anything more than the streetcar.
Well, don't you know that Kansas City is literally incapable of doing anything, because we were founded as a car-centric city in 1870, and they were always designed for cars. We can never not be designed for cars.
We never had the largest streetcar network outside of San Francisco at one point, or had the inventor of the electric streetcar.
And if you dare dream anything or have any form of ambition, we will snuff it out, because tax money ignoring all the tax money we already spent on highways, because that's baked in. That's basically a non-discretionary spending. Mm-hmm. We can't possibly spend less money on highways. And road paving and road maintenance.
We totally need 3 different ways via highway to get to the same place, where if I open up Google Maps, I can take either like 71 highway or the North Loop or I-29 or like 435 and basically get all to like very similar places within the city. And even if one place is shut down, there's always a redundancy built in. Because totally, it's not too many highways that we could totally remove.
One wonders how other cities even function when they don't have the highest, highway per capita mile in the country. Like how do you even get around New York or Chicago or LA or, Atlanta or DC or Seattle or Portland or Los Angeles or San Francisco? Because they don't have the highest, per capita highway.
Or God forbid you just Mayor Daley trialed you with their airport to get the FAA out of your hair, and then you basically remove all the zoning restrictions and parking restrictions, and you just let people go fucking ham wild on upzoning everything. So you can just you have rents drop drastically because totally Kansas City is not having a rent issue where the rents are skyrocketing because now people think we're kind of cool.
It's like, that's what always gets me is it's like, I'm not an elected official, right? I'm not a politician. I never have been a politician. So maybe I don't know. Maybe there's like things I don't know that like you like get handed a book when you get made a politician.
Maybe you get elected and they beat you with a mallet until you lose most of your brain cells.
But like it seems to me if you're like a politician or whatever, or just in charge of any like larger than 200,000 people municipality, you could like open up a game of City Skylines and realize, wow, just only having roads and no buses or anything really makes the traffic system run really poorly, huh? Like, wow, this is kind of weird. Maybe we should like invest money in solving this. Like maybe New York, who has famously bad traffic, that's all the cars honking, but yet people still get from place to place really well, and there's not millions of people late to work every single day, huh? Maybe they're doing something we could emulate as the largest city in America that has the most money and the most financial everything and the most cultural everything. Maybe we should try to emulate some things that they're doing and not just like scapegoat them as the scary big city. Oh, you're trying to turn Kansas City into New York? It's like, no, we're not trying to do that. It's just they're doing a lot of things right because they have a lot of money.
Yeah.
We don't. We don't have a lot of people either.
Well, we do have a lot of money. It's just hiding across a state border that can't be like capitalized on.
Yeah.
Unless we form we have a one-man acid transit agency, but you basically give that like a taxing authority across everyone across like a bi-state tax, which we use to rebuild Union Station.
Yeah.
Which also, sidebar back to our original conversation, being like, oh, well, we would have never gotten Union Station without the voting a yes on a tax. It's like, well, they had an actual plan 1 and 2. That was a bi-state tax where people in both Kansas and Missouri paid for that.
That's the biggest problem. And I think that having the two municipalities can be a strength because it's like if one side's doing something dumb, you can look to the other side as an example of like them not doing it. Like both with marijuana and with sports betting and like abortion and all that stuff where it's like you have the two conflicting halves of the city where they can cancel each other out. But there's just a lot of areas where it's like we really should probably have a DC style district in between the cities where here we put the sports teams here. So it's not like in Missouri or in Kansas. It's just in the neutral zone. And then we both put money towards it.
We're going to dig a big island in the Missouri River and declare it a neutral zone.
Well, yeah, I mean, you think about it, and it's just like, I don't know. I feel like Kansas City is just kind of hurt a lot by the fact that, like, they can't unilaterally have transit out to the biggest, metro district. Like they can't unilaterally build a train to Overland Park or Olathe or whatever, Johnson County in general, because they need like those weird Kansas approvals.
So why this is getting too deep into what we were going to talk about, but I want to do it. Why doesn't anyone have any goddamn vision? When you talk to someone, well, we talked to a lot of young people, and all of them, or at least maybe this is because I'm in an echo chamber, because these are the people I choose to have as friends, where it's just like, like all of them are just like, I hate having to drive. I would like to be able to get loaded and ride an e-bike around and not be hit by a car, or I like walking. Why is it when I escape that weird bubble I've included myself into of people who are like-minded to me, because that's basically how you end up having friends, is they're like-minded with you. When I escape that bubble, why is it just like, no one can come to terms with that's the best thing to do, and there's like, no, I should be able to drive by truck wherever I want, wherever I want. It's like, dude, have an ounce of vision.
It's like and I think half of this has to do with the annexations that happened, where they just absorbed a lot of suburbs into like the downtown, like Jackson County or whatever. But it's just like I feel like you elect officials to represent you, but then you also let weird council groups of people who come to meetings at like 2:30 on a Tuesday have veto power in large cases, where it's just like, okay, having public input, like in the Royal Stadium, where they're able to say, hey, here's things we think should happen. Like, you're putting a stadium in our neighborhood. Here's what we think should happen. That's valuable, but electing people and hiring a firm to do like a bus plan and then having people who live outside of the downtown area saying, I don't like buses because I want to drive my truck into downtown and parking, blah, blah, blah. You know, having people not really in that community have a veto power over it.
But you like power and light, and also plenty of times I have seen people ride the streetcar for the first time, and yeah, I don't want to be like gatekeepy. Slightly annoying that you guys, you obviously look like and talk like, because you will actively talk about this, like you've never ridden on public transit before in your entire life. And honestly, yeah, probably, because you're just like, what do we do? How do we make it stop? What do we get off here? And it's just like, yes, I'm gonna like, you will pick up on this and realize that this thing is normal to use, and there's plenty of places that do use it.
I just think a lot of this stems from like the cultural moment we exist in right now, where it's just a lot of like Prairie Village people will be like, wow, yeah, you know, like the city, just the ethereal, the city is like a crime-ridden hellhole where people die or whatever.
Your mom did that to us a few years back.
Yeah.
Where we were gonna take an Amtrak train, and she was just like, "Be careful, that's a dangerous area." It was like, that's Union Station.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like the ethereal, the city, and it's like it's always dangerous. It's always drug, and it's just like, well, that's where most people live. Like, of course, like you're gonna have a higher crime rate because more people live there, but it's not higher per capita than anywhere else in most cases. Like. And there's just a lot of people live in New York, so yeah, there's going to be more murders than there are in like Wolf Point, Montana.
Also, New York City is one of the safest cities like in the United States, if not one of the safest cities on planet Earth.
But then that just disincentivizes people from both visiting and like investing in like the core of their community. Like people won't invest in the streetcar in Kansas City because why should we subsidize, you know, like whatever crime, blah, blah, blah. Just there's no argument. There's no real good reason against why you shouldn't be able to build a commuter rail line from the suburbs into the city like every other fucking city on the planet.
My brother in Christ, we're not going to tear up all of the roads and replace them with fucking trams. What's going to happen is if you build the actual good network, I'm going to ride the network, and you won't have me and my stupid Honda Fit floating in traffic, which means you're going to get your places quicker in your big lifted truck as long as you don't hit a pedestrian.
Yeah, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah.
Getting people onto trains means that there's less people that are forced to drive because, quite frankly, right now you have to drive.
Yeah.
People only take the bus in Kansas City, in the entire metro, because they have to in most cases.
And it's not like it's useful. Mm-hmm. Like there's plenty. I mean, yes, okay, I take that back. The bus is useful in a lot of instances. I've taken it before plenty of times to a lot of different events and a lot of different things. It can get you places on time. It's free. It's very useful. It's the inconsistencies in when the bus shows up. It's not following the timetables. It's blowing by you when it's time to, we like wave a bus down and they just blow by you. That's happened to me multiple times. Or it's just like, I want to visit family in a different, like in a suburb. Well, how am I going to ride the bus if bus services aren't working on when I have a weekend?
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do?
You have to go back Monday morning, but the buses don't start until 6 a.m., so you're going to be late to work because they take an hour to get there. It's just like, and I see a lot of people being like, we need to just invest in our buses to start, and then like the rail is just like a fancy toy that comes later. But it's just like, I think the problem with that is the buses in like the transit hierarchy map. Buses relate to the game. Mm-hmm. You know, streetcars, trains, all that came first. And the issue is that when you don't have a way to get cars off the road via like a dedicated right of way for a train, right?
Yeah.
Like a dedicated streetcar line, an elevated rail, a subway. When you don't have something
rail that cars won't go over, because one thing I did with my friend who lives in Seattle learn about is in the places where they have their train going, where they have level crossings. Quite often, cars will hit the train.
Yeah.
And it's just like, guys, it's a railroad crossing. Why are you trying to blow by? Like, you think
bright line the SUV obliterator down the floor.
Do you guys think you can phase through the train?
Well, that's the thing is, I just think because buses in like a big city or a city with like a subway or like anything like an elevated rail, whatever, work better because there's just in general going to be options to get cars off the road. Mm-hmm. But when you just increase bus service, in like a place like Kansas City, it doesn't help as much because it's in the same traffic, right?
Yeah.
People won't naturally self-select to take the subway to work instead of the train or instead of driving because there isn't one.
Which
so everybody has to.
The streetcar is a expensive, very fancy, electrified on-rail bus.
Yeah, and that's the thing is it's just like basically what you're doing is you're saying, would you rather sit in your car by yourself with your seats, your AC, your music, and not be around people? Or would you rather take the bus? And 9 times out of 10, people are going to pick cars. But if it's hey, would you rather take your car, get stuck in traffic, get whatever, or take the subway that goes from point A to point B, there's no traffic, it's whatever, people are going to take the subway because it's faster. There are options that make it better. And then when you have that system in place, then in Chicago, you can be like, hey, people are already self-selecting into the L, into the subway, so the bus is a much more viable option. And there are bus lanes. Because there's less cars on the road, that we have the ability to turn them into bus lanes, into cycle lanes without directly impacting both the service of like our streetcar, right? Because if we start getting rid of lanes, if we start road dieting too much here, like with the park we're putting on over 670, maybe they're talking about shutting down. What was it, Grand? And that's great, maybe because whatever, it's a big park, unconstructed
Jesus
park.
Christ, guys, just shut down Maine. Maine is where the streetcar is. Running
That's the problem. That's the problem is that like with shutting down Oak with the Royals ballpark. Yeah. It diverts all the traffic onto Maine, which then it's like, okay, the streetcar is like road running. So we have to think about that in terms of traffic is if you shunt all those cars onto Main Street, that makes the streetcar service run worse.
Not to keep talking about my vacation, but I'm going to keep on.
Okay. You went on vacation. You paid for it. You're allowed to talk about it.
So 3rd Street in Seattle is bus only, and it's like electrified like buses. And it was just like, why can't we just shut down Maine and have it be streetcar only? Or like streetcar and electrified bus only.
Yeah. And we could. I don't know why we can't. I think it's because people are afraid of change, or people are too afraid to try it because of how it might impact them, right?
I'm going to say some spicy things. Might have to do some editing. I feel like we should, whenever people complain about that and don't see the vision, we should you have no vision, and we should basically against all these people so they can eventually see the vision that changes this city for the better.
Now, some people might say that's a little extreme, but it might work.
But
I just think, and again, I'm basing this all off of just conjecture or whatever, but I'm just saying it's like I feel like people sometimes put the cart before the horse when they focus on BRT, like bus rapid transit, stuff like that, because it's just, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, cars are still a factor you have to contend with, and you do have to contend with the fact that they're going to make your other street running service run worse. If you if you build one BRT line in Omaha, right, that's great, except for if it pushes cars off of that road or like squeezes that road so people, and like we talk about this with induced demand with highways, right? If you make it wide or whatever, if you make Oak Street narrower, less people, it's going to be less, people are going to drive slower, people are going to drive safer, but less people are going to want to drive there. So you have like the inverse of induced demand where more people are going to be pushed onto your other roads, which is going to make your other service run worse, right? You've improved that one road, but people are just going to naturally self-select onto the roads that don't have the diet. So unless you're able to do it all at once, you're going to make service worse in the short term.
If I had Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, or Elon Musk money, everyone would hate me. I would. You
want to talk about like people with no ambition. It's just like, we used to have billionaires like the freaking Carnegies and Vanderbilts and stuff, where it's like, they were shitty people. They were awful to their workers. But at the very least, no, like billionaires, you're smiling at me. Billionaires did at least used to, like their way of showing off was investing in building giant buildings, like the Carnegie Library. It's like, say what you will about Andrew Carnegie, terrible person, terrible business practices, but he did legitimately build a lot of libraries and a lot of communities that could not afford to build libraries. And it's like, that's something you have to give him praise for because he did it for free. I mean, Wichita has a Carnegie Library. Kansas City has a Carnegie Library. It's just like our billionaires that at least used to invest money instead of just hoarding it, and I don't know why that changed.
I don't know either, but if I had that level of money, I would spend it all being the enemy of people who hate change. I would start boring this streetcar network for Kansas City. Like a permission be damned. You will not stop me. I will hire firms that will ignore you when you try and shut me down. You will have to literally drag me to prison in order to make me stop.
The Boring Company is the closest we've gotten to that kind of thing here. Is it's just like we had a guy, a fucking asshole billionaire who's like, I'm going to start this. But instead of just using the Boring Company to build subways privately, he's building fucking Tesla tunnels. It's like, come on, dude. You're this close. Just build goddamn subways. Just dig the tunnels for free.
What if
you want to reduce traffic in LA? Just do that.
What if we centralize all the Tesla motors into one engine, and then we just connect all the Teslas together without engines and put it on one guide rail?
Like maybe they're having issues with needing drivers in the Tesla tunnels right now in Las Vegas. Yeah, what if we put them in like a kind of... Or almost like a guideway of sorts, a way so that you only need one person driving the whole
Or instead
line.
of the super expensive batteries, we just have the electric motors, and then we connect it to a wire that connects to up top. So you need to have batteries.
So it feeds the electricity so they can run more efficiently. So the whole thing will be lighter in general.
It's like plugging it into an outlet constantly.
It's incredible. It really is just like our entire society, it feels like, or at least maybe like the right of our society is just geared towards denying the simple mathematical fact that trains are a really efficient way of both not spending a lot of energy to move a lot of things and also to move a lot of things efficiently. It's just like DeSantis in Florida, right? You got just today he's like, we're not going to do bus lanes or anything like that. But it's like, but you physically cannot deny that Brightline is a really incredibly efficient way of moving people from Miami to Orlando. Because it's just the simple fact. It just works. It's like there is no more efficient technology to move large amounts of people medium to large distances. Because planes aren't more efficient. They're just faster.
Well, I mean, he had to fly his wife around in a private jet while he was running for election because you wouldn't fly commercial. But that's a different thing. Honestly, I want to be able to take trains, like a subway system around Kansas City. I want to be able to buy an e-bike and be able to use my expensive e-bike as my main form of transportation outside of the trains without the threat of dying, which almost every road around where I live and where the podcast studio is will there's so many places where I could just get fucking just leveled by a GMC in any location.
Yeah.
And I live right by a pretty dangerous and constantly congested highway entrance. /exit.
I almost got I almost saw a car accident about 5 feet away from me while I was driving home today.
Yeah. It was literally I granted I'm the one who chose to live there, but it's the amount of insane things I've seen cars do in that area that if there was an extra layer, because it seems like cars can't handle other cars being around them in that area. I think everyone just becomes stupid or something. If you threw in a bike or a pedestrian in that one zone, you're gonna die. That's why I've catered because I walk every single day. I have a walk route. It's a thing I use to keep it healthy. My walk route specifically is designed around avoiding that area entirely, even though I could walk over there, because literally if I just cross over where this highway entrance exit ramp is, there's a very nice walking path, but I can't get there safely because if I tried using the crosswalk around there, someone's not going to notice there's a crosswalk thing in there.
I think I've seen someone be killed there.
Yes. And I will die.
That's the other thing about cars versus subways or public transit is as much as you get the more conservative elements in our society talking about the danger of big cities or how crime or whatever. I don't want to get murdered on the subway or whatever. Yeah. It's just
then go move to the forest.
Every
I don't
single
care.
time you drive to work you are putting your life in the hands of other drivers. Because I'm sure you're the safest driver on the planet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stellar record, whatever, who cares? You could be the greatest. You could be like Max Verstappen. He's a driver, right?
Yes.
Okay. You could be him driving a car, but if some guy is playing Candy Crush on his phone and the car next to you driving 75 miles an hour, it doesn't matter because you're going to get into a 6-car collision because he drifted into your lane, sideswiped. It just doesn't matter. Because that's the thing is when you're driving, you're also we just have an inability to perceive that kind of risk in our society. Like it's really easy to perceive the risk of the guy, mugging you in the city, but it's harder to perceive the risk of the guy who got 2 hours of sleep last night, who's driving 6 hours home because his job sucks, who falls asleep at the wheel and kills you and your kids. And that's why it's like they kind of perceive it. People kind of perceive that risk, which is why cars have been getting larger and like whatever, like Hummers exist because I'd rather kill the wife of like husband and wife, 3 kids in the car next to me by pancaking them when I'm not paying attention, and I'll be fine.
Yeah.
We're in this kind of prisoner's dilemma of our society where it's an arms race of cars. The larger your car is, the more safe your family's going to be. But the more instantly you're going to kill the family.
I have a 2015 Honda Fit. Look up a picture of it.
Yeah. Well, and that's like Cybertrucks, right? Like you're stainless steel, like whatever. And it's like, okay. But like the second you get into a car accident, you're going to kill like the person instantly, like that you run into. It's just like, I don't know what the federal government is doing, but this seems like the easiest way. They need to regulate away the prisoner's dilemma because it shouldn't be an arms race. If everybody's driving a 2015 Honda Fit, car accidents in general are going to be a lot less dangerous because there's going to be a lot less energy involved. Because, it's force equals mass times acceleration. If you got a 2,000-pound car...
If we cut science education, no one's ever going to learn that, right?
Yeah, a 2,000-pound car going 75 miles an hour, hitting another 2,000-pound car going 75 miles an hour has a lot less force involved than a 6 million-pound barge going 5 miles an hour hitting a bridge, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just simple physics. You can be going half a mile an hour, but if you got like 300 million pounds of weight, of mass, there's a lot more force involved.
And there's a word you mentioned in that rant that is kind of important that a lot of people do forget is the word society. We live in one.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. What's up, Joker? But we are forced to endure other people, and the best thing to do is do stuff that is inherently like safer for the general population in general. And also you're part of a society. You can't just be repulsed by other forms of society because you're just like, the cities. It's like, dude, that's your country too. And also, by the way, unless you're like a multimillionaire, like you're a couple paychecks away from joining America's growing homeless population anyway.
Well, it's just like the financial world, like the money exists in the cities, the food exists in the rural areas, and the assholes exist in the suburbs. That's just how it works.
And you living in the suburbs is not running out to the woods. You live in the suburbs. If you want to run out of the woods, run out to the actual woods.
I mean, quite frankly, if you live in the suburbs, you live in the pod. You live in the 15-minute, like dystopian whatever. It's just like if you're, and I don't know how you would have gotten to this point of the show if you're actually like a, Republican, conservative, whatever. Because I don't know why you wouldn't have turned it off. But it just like look around because it's just like you live in a homogenous cookie cutter, whatever. Like there's a Target, there's a Walmart. There's like no real diversity in your options.
Everything. Think about what you do on a daily basis. Everything's either 20 or 30 minutes away, and you're going to end up spending $20 to $30 most of the time.
Yeah, you live in the pod. You live in the cookie cutter house in a small neighborhood.
Yes. Like your kids only know the other kids in your neighborhood if they know anything at all. You drive them to elementary school. They never interact with the outside. They don't play outside anymore, do they? No, they don't play outside anymore because you live in the pod.
Whereas, ironically, even if you don't own a car, if you're in a city, you have more freedom because in large part, like when I was in Chicago, I didn't need to get into a car once and I could go anywhere in the city I wanted to for like $2. Whereas to drive to work every single day there and back for a week, I spend like more than that in gas and God knows how much of that in maintenance of my car,
Yeah.
So it's just like public transit, it's like, well, I don't want to go where the government's telling you. It's like, well, newsflash, the government paves the roads. You're already going where they tell you to. But when you have public transit, you can get there for cheaper.
Yeah. And I have multiple friends that have actually done the dive, which I am too cowardly to do because that requires moving cities, and I like living in Kansas City.
You're in a world of pain in about 3 years when we move to Chicago because my fiance is on board.
Yeah.
She's just finishing school, and it's probably going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
and there's,
which is why we need to go on a trip to Chicago so you can enter the grace of God and see the light of the holy city of the Midwest.
And you can do what I'm about to talk about. Some of my friends have also done, which is moving to a larger city with a transit network and then abandoning their car and then realizing, oh, wait, if I don't have a $200 car payment and don't have to spend $600 every 6 months on insurance plus maintenance and gas and whatever, like even if you spend like $30 on gas.
$688 car insurance payment hit me 3 days ago. It's great.
And all of that extra money, which accounts including maintenance, oil changes,
$70 oil change every about 8 months. Yeah.
If you run over a nail, you have to get a new tire or whatever.
$400 to replace 2 tires when they were misaligned.
I have a small car, and my gas tank to fill it up is usually $20. But like I do a lot of driving because of my job, and I end up having to fill like every week or so because I have a small gas tank. Yeah. And that's $20 every single week. That literally $20 is like a Chinese takeout meal plus a couple sides from the Chinese place.
I'll put it this way. And I probably don't need to sell anyone listening to the show still, but like you can get a year pass to the CTA, unlimited rides for a whole year for one person, $170, I think, maybe closer to 200. Even if you round it to 200, that's less than I had to pay for 2 tires for my car when I hit a nail 7 months ago.
Yeah. Like literally, it's
not freeing. It's just how people are being crippled by debt in this country. Is they have to buy a $20,000 car, and they don't make sedans anymore.
It's not $20,000. The average car payment's over. Well, I got a cheap car because I was willing to buy.
I say that because my car was also $20,000. Yeah. So.
Mine was less than 20. Mine was 15, but it's because I bought a 2015 Honda Fit.
I got the midsize 2017, the midsize SUV-ish. It's not like giant because we need one in the family because we have 2 people. But I want a Chevy Volt. That's my dream car.
Yes, his dream car is a plug-in hybrid.
My fiance drives a 2015 Kia Rio, so we have that one.
Also, for context, RC is 6'8" and cannot fit in most cars.
I'll put it this way: I don't fit in my car. I can't sit up straight.
Yeah.
I'm also not 6'8", but we'll leave that a mystery. Yeah, I don't actually fit in my car though. That's the funniest thing. That's the thing that you short people don't consider is my head hits the roof of my car, and I have a sunroof specifically so that there's an extra 2 inches.
And you have a pretty a decently sized SUV.
Yeah, it's basically I don't think I could drive a Honda Fit every single day because I think it would kill me. But a CTA train car I fit in perfectly.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. I remember trying to fit you in my back seat, and it's literally kind of impossible.
Yes. So that is the my struggle.
Yeah. So anyway, you can save thousands of dollars, which you can use to put into the economy.
I mean, literally really anything. If that's the largest thing that would be freeing for so many people who have like crippling student loan debt. Is it's like you know how much easier that would be to manage if you didn't have to pay like probably $1,000 a year on average towards your car, towards transportation. Mm-hmm. Like all of a sudden, that's a lot more money you could put towards that debt. You could put towards housing. You could put towards more food. You could put into savings. You could put into retirement. It's just like
you can start collecting Funko Pops. I don't know.
It's like once you do like the basic mathematics of how our society is structured for the majority of people, I think. I actually haven't done the math on how many people live in LA versus the rest of it, like LA and whatever.
Shout out LA, their transit system is really cool.
It makes a lot more sense all of a sudden why we have like even the renting crisis, right? Like the price of housing wouldn't be as bad if people had more money to put towards housing.
But also, if you just build stuff, i.e. Austin, Texas, where
Minneapolis,
or i.e. even
Chicago,
even kind of Seattle, because they're throwing up stuff. It's going to take maybe like a year or two before the rent like actually starts plummeting there. But hell, if you open up Zillow right now, which I have on my phone, and if you don't, go on your computer or whatever, and just like put on the for rent and then go click around downtown Austin, chances are you're running into someone offering like 6 or 8 weeks free rent of a apartment that is actually kind of reasonably priced for what it is.
Yeah.
Is because that city has collapsed its rental market because it built so much, and it's collapsing the housing prices, which is good for people who want to get in because housing's no longer a goddamn investment that you have to have very wealthy parents to get into.
The biggest thing for me is the people who think that housing somehow does not apply to supply and demand.
Yeah.
But it's like just literally, and if you live in like New York or whatever, I guess I get that argument more because you've never seen rent prices go down in your life. Where it's like, oh, clearly it doesn't matter. They're building all the time. But it's like that's just because the supply is so incredibly high for like a New York that they have a backlog of supply they need to meet to just meet demand right now. So it's like, of course, you would see construction constantly and never see it go. So you might think that supply and demand just does not apply to housing. But if you live in a place like Kansas or Missouri or, the Kansas City area, where you have a lot of those smaller rural communities close by where they literally will give you a house and a plot of land for free. God, if you just move to our town, we will give you a house for free.
Shout out Marquette, Kansas. You have to build your own house, but they'll give you a plot of land.
Yeah, and it's like supply and demand is very much real, people. Very much real. It's just a lot of you live in high demand areas where
that's where the money is. Because when you
does not exceed demand,
that's where the money is. Because it turns out when humans collectively all work together in one general area, usually they tend to prosper way better than living in the goddamn woods.
So the solution is as simple as just build enough housing to where it exceeds demand.
Back to my tearing up Charles B. Wheeler Airport and then just like letting Kansas City go loose.
Unfortunately, in some cases, that does mean that the people building the housing are going to make money. Like that is just a reality of what happens when you build things and sell them for a profit. Because I have seen a lot of people who are like greedy developers or whatever, and it's like they're greedy when they charge a lot, but when they're selling at market rate, that's not greed. That's just business.
But also
just making money.
Also, if you make all those developers compete against each other, eventually they'll end up building too much, like in Austin, and end up realizing, oh fuck, we're out of money, and they need to cut the price.
If you crack down on the price fixing that's going on with the online rent, my old apartment had that, where they had the program that told them how much to increase or decrease rent, and it's like, okay, that's literally just price fixing through a third party that knows all of the apartments in the area that are using that program. I can't remember the name of the program to save my life, like RealPage or something. I think it's RealPage. Where you crack down on that, federal government, because that's very clear and obvious price fixing. But after that, just let it go wild. Landlords should have to decide their own rents based off of vibes, not based off of a program that knows what everybody's charging for rent and is able to maximize profit. It should be vibes based.
Yeah, we're a vibes based economy. All right, I'm kind of running out of steam, and we're planning on doing. I think we're going to do an actual episode on Kansas City transit stuff. We just need to do more research. We were kind of trying.
I meant for this to be like a Subway episode, but we just kind of wanted to rant. It's been a long week.
It has been a long week. I went on vacation. RC had a bad day at work. It is what it is.
Yeah. Thank you for listening if you made it this far,
Yeah. This has been an episode of the CleoCast. My name is Matt.
And I am RC.
And we are available on Twitter or wherever you get podcasts at Cleo History. Email us at cleohistorypodcast@gmail.com. You can also basically get us wherever you get podcasts, and likes or reviews or stars on Spotify, or just sharing. That does help a lot with the algorithm stuff. And and we've been seeing that you guys really enjoyed our Midwest episode that we put out a month late. Thank you for sticking through that month gap.
One. I think we enjoyed that one.
Yeah, that was a fun one. So that's been it. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.